take 2 weeks and the news comes down like a rainstorm. This is Fragments of Silicon.
All right, welcome to the beginning of the 13th season of Fragments of Silicon. Geez, 13 seasons. Doing this show quite a while, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as of this season, we have more seasons than the old show.
Hooray.
Not necessarily a longer run time,
Mm-hmm.
but more seasons. But anyway, so yeah, we're back from break. Hopefully, everyone has recharged their batteries and all the things that you would do during a break. Granted, the world never takes a break, so
That's for post show.
uh, anyway, I'm your host Adam. Joining me, as always, is the regular crew, and let us get to the news, if any has transpired in these past 2 weeks. All right, Petty, why don't you start us off?
Oh, let's see. Not a whole lot's happened because, coronavirus and stuff. Though apparently Tuesday, my city is like loosened most of the restrictions. Coming just days after they announced we've had a 400% increase in cases over the last month. So, yeah, great planning, guys. Great planning. And um I'm still waiting for some doctor's appointments because yay. And also we don't have a new date for my disability hearing, so that's fun to wait for. And as far as gaming goes, I did get my other Digimon V pet I ordered, the translucent green 20th anniversary finally. It only took about 8 weeks.
Yeah, I've been seeing your comments in a couple of the Kakujo streams that he does that you've been posting about it.
Yeah, and over the break there was a big sale on PSN, and I finally got Monster Hunter World Expansion Iceborne. I'm remembering I hate Baroth so fucking much. But yeah, I guess that's all from me.
Barrioth,
Yeah,
the
Barioth rather, the ice kitty.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm having flashbacks to 4 and I don't like it. Anyway,
All right,
next.
Alex.
Uh, well, I had a nice, uh, relaxing time off. As far as everything aside from the world going insane or continuing to go insane. Really, it's not like that's new, but
Uh-huh.
anyway, nothing significant changed really. Video game wise, over the break especially, I think it started just before. Me and some friends picked up a PC game called Heroes of Hammerwatch. That's a pixel style dungeon crawler.
Mm-hmm.
That's been pretty fun. Uh, I think I backed a couple more games on Kickstarter since, thankfully, with my job like functioning, I have had a little extra money around since there's less to spend it on. Um, and of course, today the Pokemon Sword and Shield first expansion came out, so I'm currently playing that. By which I mean literally right now, I'm in a raid, in a Blissey raid.
All right, Twilight, you're up.
All right. Well, yeah, not really a whole lot has been going on around here. I'm kind of sort of watching the house for the neighbors because they've gone away on a vacation trip, I believe. Um, so they'll be gone for a weekend, I believe, and eh, don't really need to, they don't really need to worry too much since this is a pretty peaceful neighborhood anyway. So at work, all the remodeling is done and the Starbucks opened, and yeah, it's been pretty popular, and I'm still not interested in their coffee because it's too pricey. I can buy a can of coffee for $5 and that'll last me a month. But they did give out samples the week before, and I did like what I tried, but it's not enough to convince me though. Let's see here now. Well, in terms of gaming, I did finish up Final Fantasy VII Remake and seeing the ending for myself. I am actually quite interested in the direction that they seem to be going with it, and I hope they don't screw it up.
Well, this is Nomura, so be very, very, very afraid.
Yeah,
As a Kingdom Hearts fan, I can extend this to you.
I've had my experience with Kingdom Hearts. I know, I know how it can be like. But yeah, I'm interested in where they're going with it. Um, well, I really didn't play much else in games during the break. I was going to try out Fantasy Star Online 2, but if you've been watching the news on that, you know how much of a dumpster fire that's been.
Oh, the English version ain't doing too good?
Microsoft screwed up with their Windows Store.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, that's what you need to know right there. That's been a travesty. I've tried a number of times to download it, and it just won't do.
Yeah,
But
I was seeing one of the streamers I follow, Tate. He had to reinstall the game like 3 times.
it kept telling me that there's something wrong on their end. I don't know why it could be. But the fans had created a workaround on that. I tried that. It downloaded. I got the game up and running, but then I don't know what happened. I can't log in for some reason. I just gave up there after a few tries there, and something to do with the like 2 or 3 other programs that are needed to download in order to connect with the game.
Fine.
So yeah, so I gave up on that, and I've just been practicing on my digital drawing tablet, and that's it for me.
All right. I guess it's my go.
Mm-hmm.
My break was filled with conferences. God, this not E3. It's just been, a ton of indie conferences, and then the PlayStation 5 thing, and like Ubisoft and EA's things are later on this week, I think, maybe
Something like
next.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, there are more of them. Um, I will say I'm having a hard time remembering a lot of the games just because it, I did like it's a deluge. Like it's a lot of games with not a lot of wraparound.
Mhm.
You know, um, but yeah, uh, at at the very least, events are happening. News is flowing once again. Like we did, we also did a live stream of the PlayStation 5 event, which is still in the archives as of this recording, but I don't think anyone rushed to say that.
Yeah, and if we do, it
Sorry,
probably would.
I wasn't there at the time on account of I was at work,
Yeah,
but
I
I
wasn't
did
there
end up
either.
watching it
Even if I
afterwards.
do clip it, it's probably not going to go to YouTube because sometimes we keep that stuff on the Twitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
But
because of all the copyrighted music in it.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
And anyway, as far as stuff beyond that. Uh, Not really, because yeah, the coronavirus is still an ever-present threat, and if you've seen the numbers out of Florida recently, they're bad. They're really bad.
Maybe opening the beaches was a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what some people just get stir crazy.
Anyway, let's see. Also, dealing with a bee sting.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Not a,
Adam, what did you do to the poor thing?
sprayed it with some Raid afterwards. Like, it might have been a hornet or a wasp. I wasn't really sure. All I know is I heard some buzzing around my ear while working outside to open a window in the tool shed because it needed airing out. And yeah, that was not a fun experience.
Yeah, better you than me, because I'm allergic.
Yeah, I'm not allergic, so you know, uh, it's nothing that that an ice pack or two didn't cure. Yeah, it's mostly gone, like swelling and all that. So that's good as far as stings go. And yeah, I think that's about it for my news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Dez of the Lo-Fi Apocalypse.
Hello.
Hello.
By the way, Lo-Fi Apocalypse is just me. It's just one man show.
Duly noted. Like,
So your stance is that the apocalypse will be televised, but you won't be able to make out any details.
We'll be televised, but we won't be able to tell any details.
Yes,
I
because
think
it'll be lo-fi.
Right. I guess so. I guess you think about it that way. I never thought about it that way. I always thought of it as like the lo-fi. It's a bunch of lo-fi games are gonna take over, like going back to the original. You know.
Right.
That makes sense.
Anyway, so how we like to start things out is by getting to know the person behind the game, studio, and whatnot. And we do that by asking this question: what got you interested in video games, both in a personal and a professional capacity?
Let's see. I mean, like, I'm sure it's like this for most devs that just as a kid, I was just engrossed by games. Like, looking back, I think it was like a bit of an escape for me. Like, it's like a safe, like, games were like a safe place where I can just do whatever, like, get away from everything and, like, feel powerful and feel like I can affect the environment around me, I guess. I, um, I mean, but I don't know your guys' age, but for me, my heyday would have been like in the 80s with the NES
Mm.
and early 90s with Super NES. So
That was my
that's
very beginning.
yeah. So I actually I always wanted to make games, but at that time, like when I would look at the credits of the game, they were all Japanese because at the time Japan, like almost all the studios were in Japan, and I thought that would be impossible for me to ever make it in games because I mean I'd have to go to Japan. How would I do that? I don't even know anything about making games. But I went to I ended up in college. I got a degree in computer animation, and I wanted to go in games, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to. I could have gone like the commercial route or like movies. Like my how can I say my training is in like computer animation, so like stuff like Shrek, making Shrek or like Toy Story, that kind of thing. Um, but I was able to get a game job out of school, and that was in 2002. So that's how long I've been making games in one capacity or another.
Indeed. And is your current development thing a full-time affair or is it part-time?
Right now, it's full time because of the coronavirus. So like nothing's happening. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna finish Obey. I mean, the game Obey is like, how can I say? It's like my opus. That's the game that I wanted to play and make forever. And in like 2014. I got really serious. Um, but I mean, the scope of the thing, it's a multiplayer 3D action game with VoIP and billions of features that I mean, part of me just wanted to see if I could even do it. It was impossible, so I took it on, and I mean, it's been a big saga to finally get it out. But like, I guess it's 6 years later, and it's finally about to get wrapped up.
I mean, for the uninitiated, what is Obey?
Okay, Obey is like, how can I explain this? This is like, there are lots of games where you, let's say you have like a it's like strategy games, right? You control your AI people and you say, "Oh, go attack here, or do that," right? In
Mhm.
Obey, it's like it's the same thing except the other players, the units are the other players, and all of them are ready to stab you in the back and screw you over. So they don't really want to do what you say because they're all your enemies basically, or your opponents. So you're trying to get your opponents to do what you want, trying to help you out. So you're coercing them, you're lying to them, they're lying to you. You're trying to figure out who's lying, and it just turns into a very it's a social game, right? So it turns into it's kind of like I don't know if you guys ever played the the what's oh my god, I'm blanking out. Counter Strike jailbreak mod or like uh, Town of Salem. Like it's like kind of games where you like figure out or like what's that game like Secret Hitler games where you're like trying to figure out like who's lying basically like who's not who they say they're who they are
Mhm.
saying they are.
Mhm.
And so if you're the robot in this game, let's say you're trying to figure out which ones are trying to screw you over, which ones are trying to help you, and it just hijinks go on from there, flow from that. You know?
It's a very unique game from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the idea. There's nothing else out there like it, and that's why I'm like, this game has to get made. No one else is gonna make it but me, so I'm gonna do it.
I, I I can see the line of logic here. I mean, like I suppose on a conceptual level, it reminds me a bit of Hello Neighbor, but instead of a town and humans, it's got bunnies in it. I'm
I mean,
like,
part of the thing with the bunnies is like they're supposed to feel like they're like totally innocent, and they can't directly harm the robot, but they can do a lot of bad stuff that can cause a robot a lot of trouble. Um, and they can definitely indirectly hurt the robot. Like I don't know if you have you played the game.
no, I don't think anyone here has.
Oh, okay. So like in the game, like let's say you're the robot, right? And you have other players who are the bunnies. You trying to get them to give you stuff so you can cement your power, right? So there's like a box called the feed box in the map, and there's items in the game you can have, like let's say rockets or um, ammo and
Mhm.
money. So you can try to get the bunnies to put this stuff in the box and give it to you, right? So naturally, nobody wants to give you anything because that's against their interest. So as a robot, you're actually making a really high passive income. So you can try to bribe them with your really high income, so you can afford to pay them stuff, and try to get them to help you out. Like and smart players that are bunnies will play that will play that like some like for example if let's say the robot is losing and you like I guess if you haven't played I should explain this too. So the way you win is by reaching a money goal. Everybody whoever's the first person to reach the money goal wins the match. So if you're a losing robot and the bunnies are above you, the bunnies almost certainly, if they're smart, will obey you because you're going to pay them even more, and they don't mind helping you because they're already ahead of you. If that makes sense. And if it's vice versa, let's say the robot is winning, it's a lot harder to get them to do what you want. You have to coerce them more. Does that make sense?
I
Mhm.
think so.
It's hard if you haven't played. It's not. It's. I mean, I think that's one of the challenges of this kind of game that it's like it's so different that it's really hard to convey like how the dynamics play out until you actually try it.
Uh-huh. Uh, Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
You just kind of cut off there for a bit. Um, Anyway, um, so how many players can engage in a match?
I would
Um,
say minimum, like to have like a to have any kind of game, I would say 3 players, human players minimum. There's bots in it, so you can like fill it out with bots. But
mhm.
3 minimum, I would say for a decent match, and I would say max 7. You can if you can with the server settings, you can make it whatever you want. Like sometimes it's fun to like put 300 bots in there and just they're full of bunnies everywhere that you're just blasting away. But to have what I consider an obey match, more than 7 is really difficult, especially if the players are good, because they're all imagine you're the robots. That means 6 bunnies you're trying to control, and all of them are trying to screw you over and not do what you say or ask, and finding subtle ways to, for example, I told you you can put stuff in the feed box and give it to the robot, right? So was as a robot as the game progresses, like sometimes the bunnies die, like they can get burnt or they walk into a laser wall and they'll create a corpse. They'll leave a corpse behind when they die. So if a bunny grabs that corpse and sticks it in your feed box, delivers it to you, you get like a huge financial penalty. So you're watching your box, making sure they don't do that, making sure they don't hide the stuff you bought and put it in a lake or throw it off the edge of the map, stuff like that, if that makes sense. So 7, I think, is a max sane for a sane obey match. Or it'll be challenging, but doable. The most I've ever, I'm the developer, and I'm probably one of the best players since I've played it so much. Um, I once was able to control 12 bunnies with about most of them being new players, and even that was really, really, really extreme. So
I
7.
wager, like, um, yeah, this game sounds very um, intelligent.
Chaotic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
I
Yeah,
think that's
that too.
true. I think that's true.
yeah,
It's very a very mental game, very cerebral, let's call it, like where you are really trying to think 2 or 3 to if you're playing to win, you got to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of the other people in the match. And like one of the funniest things that happens is like when you say a lie and then someone else is like reacts like knows you're lying, doesn't respond, catches you because you were lying. They're like, "Of course I knew you were lying." So like they were like 2 steps ahead of you, and you're trying to get ahead of the lying. You know what I mean? So maybe you tell the truth, thinking that they're gonna think you're lying, like stuff like that, right? Like
mhm.
it turns into like a sort of like I guess like a rock paper scissors. You know I'm gonna do rocks, I'm gonna do scissors, but I know you're gonna think that, so I'm gonna. If that makes sense.
All right. And what sorts of items can you offer up? Like, is there like a price value on, like, can you like offer up, say, gold or
Well,
silver or?
well, in the video right there, you see what they're carrying. They're carrying like these orange blocks. Those are uranium. So uranium is basically money in the game. Like you can take the uranium and you put it in the box, and it pays the robot. So the robot can pay you back. So if you're the bunny, like you should be asking for some of the profits of that. But there's a lot of stuff you can put. Like besides ammo you have rockets and flamethrower fuel and sentry ammo. Sentries are like these little pylons next to the robot. Like when you trigger them, they just kill anybody next to them. So like if you think you're gonna get, well, I guess I should explain this too. So let's say in the map, if you want to be the robot, you just walk in the door. The robot has like a little slit in the front. You can just walk in, boom, you're the robot. That's it. So if you're in the robot, you don't want anybody to walk in. So you have to protect that door. So if you turn on the sentries, it'll kill anybody bunnies near you, if that makes sense. So if you want ammo for those sentries, you got to get bunnies to stick it in the box for you, and you have to buy it too. So sometimes people do this, or they ask like, what if it keeps me from like just shooting everybody, and like there's the game, it's ruin the game. So there's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. Like if you're in the robot, you just want to shoot everybody and not have them obey you. Like you could just do that. You could just go crazy, whatever. But usually, what that does in practice, especially if you're playing with good players, it just prolongs the match. Because what happens when you are just killing the bunnies like wantonly, like they just spawn in the map immediately, randomly hidden. So that's pretty dangerous for the robot. Like because it's hard to find lost players. So they're just hiding and waiting to get you. So if you really want to control, you really want to like establish yourself. Um, you gotta buy a dropship. So the dropship is like this like craft that comes like a plane that comes into the map. And so you invest in the dropship, and what happens when you do that is when you kill the bunnies, they don't respawn randomly in the map. They respawn in the dropship now. So it's like a collector kind of. So you can collect the other players in the dropship. So as long as the dropship exists, like you can punish the bunnies because if they're in there, they're just like it's like a spawn time, I guess. It's like a they're just waiting, and it sucks to be in there and they're not making any money. So that's the punishment. If that's how you can punish and coerce people. So that's man, I forgot the original question. I'm off. I went off off on a tangent. Um,
It's fine because that actually answered a question I had about how do you keep people from just like disregarding you know
the
these
theme of the game.
rules.
Yeah,
It's like it just like mentioned like just shoot the bunnies. Like
sure. Yeah, so it's actually part of the game. I mean, there's times where like that is the best strategy for the robot. Like let's say I'm at 9,000. The money goal is usually 10,000. So let's say I'm in the robot and I'm at 9,000. Almost nobody's gonna obey me. I mean, they're not gonna just put me over the edge. So everybody's gonna start rebelling and doing bad stuff. So once like I try to my 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 strategy at that point would probably be to try to waste their time first, like say, "Wait, guys, come obey." Like I'll try to talk them, and this is a huge part of obey is like trying to convince people to do stuff, right? That they really maybe shouldn't do or don't want to do. Try to like it's like a gray area for part of the game, right? But at a certain point, it's not gonna be gray anymore. It's like they definitely should not do what you say, and and at that point, like I'll just start killing. You keep them, just buy time. Try to keep them just enough time for me to get to the 10K and just seal that match, if that makes sense. So it is part of the game. I mean, if you're in the beginning of the game, let's say, and you start doing that, like chances are that it's not going to turn out well for you because they can, for example, the bunnies. You have a power supply, right? It's like you can see in the video there. It's like a little pylon with a fire, like a purple fire coming out of it. So that's your passive income if you're the robot. So the bunnies can shut it off. If they reach it, they'll just turn it off and turn off your passive income. So if you don't notice, like you're you're just not gonna be making any money and looking around doing your stuff and like, why am I broke? Um, they could also corpse you. Like I said, they could take a corpse and stick it in your box,
right.
and of course they can subvert you. And when you get subverted, you drop money. You get a penalty. You drop money in the match, and then all the bunnies that are alive will just come and take the money that dropped in the map.
Mm.
So, so just like killing people, like it has to be. There's a place for it in the game. It's just it's a edge strategy. I would say it's not something that I would try, except under the condition I stated, where it's like just the end of the match, and you just need to buy a little bit of time. They don't have enough time to get you, or maybe you have a lot of batteries. If you were able to get them to give you a lot of batteries, you can start killing them, and then just keep those batteries turning on the sentries so they can't reach you, and maybe that's enough time to put you over the top. And then once you run out of batteries, hopefully it's near the time that you're winning. Other than that, you'll be screwed.
So,
Now,
because this sounds really complicated, I feel I need to ask, have you done a lot of playtesting to make sure that people play it approximately the way you expect them to?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff, the mechanics I explained are basically balancing mechanics introduced to balance what to make sure that the playing cerebrally, like playing intelligently, not just shooting everything that moves is not, the thinking is rewarded. Doing dumb stuff is not rewarded. Yeah.
so here's another question I have. Does someone have to be the giant robot? Um, do they have to go into the robot, or can they not do that?
I mean, like, can you win a match without being in the robot? Is that your question?
Yeah, like
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, you can think of it this way: like, the more chaotic a game is, like lots of players doing lots of stuff, corpsing, lots of shooting and explosions, and everybody's going crazy. Like, that's probably a game where you're probably safer being a bunny. Like, order is in the benefit of the robot, chaos is in the benefit of the bunnies. So let's say things are really crazy. the strategy I'd probably take is be a bunny and try to get each robot that the robot's probably going to be switching hands a lot. So you try to obey all of them and try to get some money from each of them and screw over each robot that comes through and try to keep the robots cycling so nobody is getting that high income bonus from being in the robot. And you've been obeying the whole time, getting money from the bribes of the robot the whole time, and you can steal the match like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. And are there any sort of time constraints on this? Like, do you have to reach the 10K goal in like 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
Not really. I put a long time constraints like 2 hours. You know, the match is 2 hours. It'll try to shut you down. You know, but typical match with players that know how to play will probably reach the goal in about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So that's a typical match, I would say. But there's no real time limit, and sometimes it's just like it's a lot. It's like, how can I say? Um, there's a lot of like edge moments where like, oh my god, this guy's gonna see that. Boom, somebody got a corpse in right at the last minute. Oh no, he just lost 30% of what he needed to win. So now the game goes on, and then someone else takes the robot. Then the guy that you thought was like a few points from winning is now screwed, and he's begging everybody to join him to fight the new robot or whatever. Like it's like it gets really dramatic and fun when people play to win. So
Like, I gotta wonder what was the inspiration for this very specific kind of game.
that's a good question. I mean, the way it started was, I mean, this how can I say this? It's an evolution of an idea, right? The first version of it was me and a bunch of friends were like, hey, let's make a video game. What are we going to make? And I'm like, all right, let's just make the most asymmetrical game possible. I love asymmetrical multiplayer games. So I'm like, let's just make it as asymmetrical as possible. What happens? So the idea was just make it would be like tower defense, like a tower, not tower defense, like a King of the Hill and the robot would have like billions of weapons, right? That was the idea. That went away, and like those team members went away, and it just ended up being me. And when I got serious about the idea in like 2014, 15, um, it evolved into like as the game. How can I say? Once the gameplay started to show itself, once it was implemented, it evolved, and I realized that I was making um, like a slavery simulator, for lack of a better word. Like, so you have one player who's like putting down the other players, and none of them want to be put down, but they can't always do something about it. So they have to use their brain and trickery to, if they want to get out of the situation, if that makes sense. So like it's basically a very raw power simulator, if like in the sense of like real life. And I was making like something that had analogs to real life. I'm like, man, this is so cool. I'm like, this is so much better than even what I could have imagined. And so those aspects, I tried to play them up in the gameplay when I could. Like I tried to play those up, and more, how can I say, action mechanics, play them down. So I didn't want the game to be like a skill based game, like a first person shooter is very skill based. For example, like you have to be quick with the mouse and accurate and stuff. um, I didn't want it to be like that. That's why if you play it, the bunnies are very slow. The but even then, the robot does take some skill, but it's not huge. But I guess, does that answer your question, how it became what it is?
It does. And were you the only person working on the creation of Obey for the entire 6-year gestation period?
Yeah, I mean, development wise, yeah. I mean, I hired help for the music and the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the community helped me with like gameplay ideas, like mechanic ideas, maps. Some of the maps are not mine. There's a level editor, so you can just make your own maps. So some of them I didn't make, um, but I would say 99%, was me. Yeah.
Like, I gotta say, this is pretty impressive for a one-man show. Like,
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's actually not. I mean, it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. Like, it wasn't a human task to take on. It was like just absurd amount of work to get to this point.
uh,
Um, but it is what it is, and here it is. I mean, to me, I'll be honest with you, man. I play this game sometimes, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a work of genius. It's freaking beautiful. It's so perfect. Like that's how I feel. It's so good. But not everybody sees that. But when I play it, I'm like,
I mean, it could be a matter of perspective. Like, you look at a game like this, and I think you were expecting more shooty bang bang.
yes, yes,
What's on offer here? Um, because like, I the best way I can describe this game is a cunning simulator.
a what?
A cunning simulator.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's why VoIP is very heavy in the game. You gotta be ready to lie and just speak like you're doing something and act like you're doing something else. So, like
Mhm.
for example, like one technique I use a lot when I'm playing is um, I will look at another bunny, see what they're doing, and maybe I'm subverting. Maybe I'm like not the robot doesn't even know where I am, so I'm like on my way to him, and I'll pretend to be the other bunny because that's why the bunnies are anonymous in the game. There's no name tags and there's no kill notifications when if you're the robot and you kill somebody, you have no idea whether they died or not. So let's say I'm on the way to the robot. I see a bunny. Let's say I see a bunny with scrap or uranium on the way to the feed box. I'll be like, "Can I have some auto pay for the uranium?" Even though I'm not him, and he might not know that I'm trying to pretend that I'm him. So the robot thinks I'm him, and let's say he's trying to kill me, he might just shoot that guy. And meanwhile, I'm near the door. Does that make sense?
It does. There's probably a sociology paper in this game.
I think so. I think so. I think that's probably true.
Yeah. Um, Now, from what I can see, this game had a period of early access as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for a long time, most of the dev time was in early access.
I'm guessing that's where a lot of the game was built and such.
Oh yeah, yeah. I um, at least half the game was in early access. Like in 2015 is when May 2015 is when it came out in early access in Steam, and I had some basic mechanics in there. I would say like maybe half the development was done before then because it had obviously multiplayer was in place, and but I remember it didn't have any sound. And then I guess the other half was developed with the community playing and sharpening it up and finding, you know, finding issues in gameplay. Like you were gonna ask, some people do come in and just want to shoot everybody. So how do I balance the game so that it's actually not? Maybe they can. It's still possible, I think, to beat new players like that.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think it's possible to beat experienced players like that. You're gonna get corpsed. You're gonna get your power plant shut off. You're gonna get subverted. You're not gonna make any money.
Right. And um, you said that this journey is almost over. What's left?
Oh, right now I really think it's just a couple weeks of work to just some polishing things like I mean I could look at my task list here, but just things like the leaderboard. I want it to be have friends only or global leaderboard, like just polished like quality of life, usability stuff. Nothing. There's no major features left in the game to add. Like maybe some bugs. There's like here, all the waterfalls have no sound. I'm looking here. More Steam achievements. There's 50 achievements now, but I want to add a couple more. Some minor visual bugs, stuff like that. Like, here's one thing about development you guys might not know, but that last inch is a mile. It's so much work to really get that last of it polished, and I'm just about to wrap that up. So I'm just feeling really satisfied and really content about that now because it's been such a long journey.
Like, I think we know by proxy.
Yeah, maybe if you worked on anything complicated or any, I mean, maybe just at work. I don't know what you guys do, but if you do any kind of construction or any engineering related task, like that'll do it. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose, but I mean, in terms of games, like we have a lot of developers on the program, so you know they they have mentioned this last mile
Oh
you know,
yeah.
phenomenon. So it's an actual thing. Like
Does it
I'm
have a
not
name?
sure how like well researched it is, but I know it. Like I we've definitely heard this story before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is what it is. That's how it goes.
Hmm. And as far as computer platforms, is this game Windows only, or is it also on Mac and Linux?
It's on Windows, Mac, and Linux PC. A lot of people have been asking for mobile, but I really don't think that's gonna happen unless it gets like crazy popular, and I think it'll make a ton of money. I might do it, but it's not in the cards right now. So it's just I'm a PC gamer anyway. Like I like my games on PC, so that's what I made. I made the game that I thought was perfect. You know.
I mean, I can understand that thought process, and I'm assuming that philosophy extends to consoles as well.
Not following.
Would you be amiable to bringing this game to like the PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, well, like I said, if it gets really popular and people want it, I would do it. But I don't see that happening right now, and not getting popular enough for me to like bring up, put it out to a port, or if a publisher came to me and was willing to offer money or something like that, like I would, I would definitely seriously consider that.
Mm, I'm sure they're out there, like, uh, but you know, we'll see what happens in that regard. How popular is the game right now?
Um, right now it's kind of gone back into like a lull. It's had like waves. Oh, a good popular YouTuber will play it, and the servers will be like full for weeks, and then it kind of like lulls down. It'll go on sale. It'll get some people in there. I do an update. Some people come in, or it gets a popular article. One time there was a big article in a uh, German newspaper, and
Uh,
the game was just filled for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, just filled with players. Just stuff like that. So then it just goes down because it hasn't had consistent promo, and that's my fault, I guess. But that's another big thing that I don't think I appreciated when I first started the project is how much work promo is and how important it is. I would say like promo is half the job, and I vastly underestimated that. Like if you want your game to be, you know, I mean, especially a game like this, it's a multiplayer game. It needs players. To really keep that up, it needed somebody full time on promo the whole time, something like that.
hmm. Yep. It's a very big market these days, and
Yeah, getting mind share, just getting people to like look at it, try it. It's not simple. So yeah, if you want to play it, I would say get some friends together to make sure that you can get a game. Or also on the Discord, there's a ton of people on the Discord. If if you can't find a match online.
right. I mean, with us, since we're a troop here, we can, we usually have enough people to play a game of something. Should we?
Right.
So but I get what you're saying. And yeah, how much is the game going for right now?
Um, I lowered. It used to be more in early access. I lowered it to $8. I think. I think it's 7.99. Which I think it's underpriced. I think the game is worth more than that. It's a good game. Um, but it's $8 for a single copy, and I made the 4 pack dirt cheap. It's $20, so like $5 a copy if you get a 4 pack. It's just, I mean, I made the game, but obviously I think it's worth playing. But I think to me it's a very very unique, and um, it's the kind of game that you yell at. People playing are yelling at each other. Like they're like screaming and like hollering. Why didn't you do this? Like to me that's a sign of a good game. A sign of like that it's doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Like and you feel betrayed sometimes. You feel humiliated sometimes. You feel like there's one time like when someone's been lying to me and they subvert me, and I'm like, oh my god, you screwed me over so bad. Like, oh, and you were lying. Oh my god, like you feel so had. Like, it's just this kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's a game that gives you those moments.
Hmm. Well, that's good to hear. I suppose. Like, I do worry that this game might be a friendship ender.
Maybe. Could be, I suppose. I can see that, yeah.
Uh-huh. And well, I suppose that's it for my questions. What about you guys?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think I asked mine.
All right. So I think that'll about do it here. Thank you, Des, for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Adam.
No problem. The game is Obey. It's currently out on Steam for $7.99 USD, or in a 4-pack for $19.99 USD. Be sure to pick it up and play it today. All right, Petty, play us to the next segment.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Mhm. Fucked up your queue, didn't you? I,
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm like, that was not the transition music.
No, it was not.
Like, anyway, you could have stopped it at a certain point.
I honestly just was like, oh crap. I'm bad, okay? I'm also mostly asleep.
I'm like, that means you need a caffeine injection or something. Now, plus it's only like what 9:30 your time.
Something like that. I don't know, man. I haven't slept very well.
Time hasn't been real for a few months now.
Hmm.
Anyway, welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we're talking about Pokemon Snap. And yes, this was a snap change from what we were originally going to be talking about, which was
Boo.
I'm like, you have no recourse to talk. Some of the puns you unleash. Anyway, I'm like, so we're talking about Pokemon Snap because, against the odds, we're getting a new Pokemon Snap, which is being called New Pokemon Snap. Nintendo, we are going to get a restraining order against you in the word new. Like, no, seriously, stop calling your games new something. Like,
Because then they stop being new and it gets super awkward.
The new.
Yeah. Also, it's because we're 5 years down the line, maybe 10 years, like down the line, we're gonna have to deal with shitty YouTube comedians saying new. It's not new anymore. Kind of joke. I've seen it with other new. It's like new Super Mario Brothers, but it's 10 years old or whatever. And like I said, I've seen this kind of joke before. It's not fun. It wasn't funny then. It's never going to be funny. Please don't make the joke. Like, we all know it's not going to be new in like a year or whatever. Uh, you know, you're not going to be the first or the millionth person to point that out. Like, thank you very much. That being said, this is a game that has been shockingly 20 years in the making or so. What I think the original Pokemon game came out in what 1999.
Something like that.
I know it was
Like-
sometime during the N64, but
Yeah, they specifically said it was about 20 years.
Yeah,
it came out in America July 27th, 1999. Yeah.
yeah. I think it might have hit Europe in 2000. Like I saw like the copyright 1999 2000.
Yes, September 15th, 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, God, that's another thing that happened back in the day. wait times were a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the thing about it is, Pokemon Snap didn't have a lot of text to translate. I mean, in comparison to like a Pokemon RPG.
I think there were more weird things with systems back then,
Well, yeah, it's also because you had
where
to
like there were
convert to
stupid
a.
hardware differences between.
Well, it's more like in the case of Europe, it's you had to convert to a whole different television format.
Mm-hmm.
PAL region.
Yeah, you had to get a different what's the word? Frame rate.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Pokemon Snap, one of the more beloved, not just say N64 games, but um, Pokemon spin-offs. Maybe the most beloved Pokemon spin-off. Uh,
It's one of the ones that does the best job of capturing like being in the world with Pokemon rather than
uh,
in a way that's different than training.
Mm-hmm.
right. Um, Also, I remember that they dedicated a arc to Pokemon Snap in like the television series.
Yeah, they had
Right.
Todd show up for a
Yeah,
while.
like a
Yeah.
4 or 5 episode one.
So I guess Todd will be appearing again in Journeys.
Possibly, although the character
Mhm.
for this one is different.
You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know who the character is.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, if it is Todd, his hair is squished under a hat.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's that Todd. He could be named Todd.
They will probably bring back another photography thing
You
in
know.
the anime because it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Sun and Moon had like mini Pokemon Snap where in some places you could take pictures of Pokemon, just not everywhere.
Right. And in the like in the announcement video, well, we didn't get a whole lot of details. Um, Granted, Pokemon Snap as a concept doesn't really need a lot of conceptualization. That's
Yeah,
why.
we mostly got like the graphics are really nice.
Mhm.
It has Pokemon from every generation up to the current one.
Yeah, and it's going to be based in an island scenario,
Which I
like
think the original one was too.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Like we're not sure if this is going to be in the Galar region, the Aloha region. Um,
Probably some well, actually, you know what? They might actually name the region this time. They didn't the first time because that was before they like had other regions.
right.
But it might be just the something or other islands.
The
All right.
Orange Islands. Wait a minute.
Finally making that canon. Like, but yeah, um, and the new Pokemon Snap is being powered by Bandai Namco Studio. The developers of Pokken Tournament.
And all
Smack.
of the. And I was actually gonna say like Hyrule Warriors and stuff too.
That's Tecmo Koei.
Oh, right. Never mind. I had it backwards. These studios need to stop merging so that they stop having two-part names that I get confused.
But yeah, it's like if you never played the original Pokemon Snap, mind you, you can do that fairly easily because the Pokemon Snap game did get re-released on the Wii and the Wii U Virtual Consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I suppose that's now being procured on owning a Wii U, since you can't access the Wii store anymore, and that's also unfortunate because the Wii U's N64 emulation is a bit shite.
A
The
bit.
games, well, the games are too fucking dark.
Mm-hmm.
Still, it could be a lot harder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pokemon Snap is basically you are on a Pokemon safari, and your goal is to take interesting picture of Pokemon. Um, in the first game, you did this along what was it, like 5, 6 stages?
I
Some,
don't remember.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, somewhere around like 5 or 6. Yeah.
I know there was a secret stage at the end.
Yeah. Um, and the thing about it is that game was fairly limited, not just in terms of, like, say that maybe the technology, but
There were only 63 Pokemon in it,
right.
and then a couple more that weren't actually in it, but were like, oh, it's a constellation of that, or it's a group of hills that look like a Doug trio.
Hmm. Still, even, and keep in mind, Pokemon Snap came out during where there was only one generation of Pokemon. 63 Pokemon wasn't the most impressive number.
Yeah, it was less than half of the few that existed at the time. Which I'm not
Mm-hmm.
exactly expecting the new one to have every Pokemon, but it'll probably have more.
I mean, I should hope so. Like, we're well beyond the capabilities of the N64. Like, and
It looks
I
like
know,
it's seven locations, including the secret one, which is called Rainbow Cloud.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's where you basically had a boss battle with Mew. Like,
A boss trying to catch the damn thing because it flies super fast and it's not actually visible, so you can't tell what pose it's making.
right, you have to throw apples at its psychic shield until it breaks.
uh,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the other thing about Pokemon Snap. The replay value is in various items you get over the course of the game. Like, you get apples, you get pester balls, and you get a flute.
which is actually a lot of the replayability because you get those as you progress through the game, and they have uses significantly earlier in the game than you get them. So, like, after you get the pester balls, you have to go back to the first stage to use them on something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This will, uncover new Pokemon or new poses, and the better the picture, the better the pose, the more points you get. Points unlock the the next levels. Um, and some other general picture taking tips were, having Pokemon centered was ideal. Having Pokemon clear, like you can see, is optimal. Having more than one Pokemon was even better. Having
And then if they're looking at you, that's good.
mm-hmm,
And if they're doing something special, that's generally better.
right,
Mm-hmm.
like, or if you have two different Pokemon types, that's really good. Um, and there wasn't much to the game. Like, it was a really good rental, in my estimation. Like, I never
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon Snap, but I definitely rented it. Speaking of which, if you wondered why Blockbuster was trending as of this recording, that is because, at least here in North America, this was a promotion that I do believe was worldwide. I know Japan had it.
Well, it was with different things, but they made special kiosks where
Right.
you could, like, bring your N64 Pokemon Snap cartridge to the kiosk and actually print out the Pokemon Snap photos you took.
On
Mm-hmm.
actual photo paper.
Yes.
Yep.
And clearly, a lot of people did this, considering how many nostalgic posts I saw about those fucking Blockbuster kiosks. I personally was not that engaged in Pokemon to bother. Um, but yeah, Pokemon Snap is a rather beloved Pokemon spin-off game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it was the first spin-off game. I think that might have been Pokemon Stadium.
The first Pokemon Stadium.
Right. Like, also the timeline with Pokemon Stadium is a bit weird because there were actually 3 of those, but we only got Pokemon Stadium 2 and 3 because the
Because
first.
Pokemon Stadium 1 sucked.
Well, yeah. Also, it didn't even have the full lineup.
That's why
One-
it sucked. I
Yeah.
don't know what it had for mini games, if it even had any, which I kind of doubt.
Right. But yeah, Pokemon Snap was at the very least one of the first spin-off games. Also, like one of the first console Pokemon games. That was another big selling point of Pokemon games on like the N64. I know they really hammered this home with the Pokemon Stadium games. It was the chance to see all of your Pokemon in 3D. N64 level 3D, and not even that.
Hey, it was good at the time.
Yeah. It was acceptable at the time. It's not something you could really do, even like a few years after that. Yeah. But still.
Yeah, even by Pokemon Coliseum, they upgraded the textures and stuff, but the basic models and rigs they brought forward from Pokemon Stadium, and some of those looked a little rough. And then they did the same thing for Pokemon Battle Revolution.
Right. But getting back to Pokemon Snap, yeah, that was also a standalone Pokemon thing. Like the Pokemon Stadium games were really meant to be used with the transfer pack.
Mm-hmm.
But Pokemon Stadium stood on its own, and I suppose depending on how you define a first-person shooter, this is definitely one of the best. Like
first-person shooter of photographs, yes.
Yeah. I mean, like I personally put it in the genre of rail shooter. That's its own genre, separate from a first-person shooter. Like that's, I guess that's the bit of the odd thing. It's a rail shooter from the first person's perspective. There's not that many of those. But, I think
that's also where most of the challenge comes from, because you have like limited window of time as you're passing by an area to get a good picture of the Pokemon in the area.
Yeah, and flowing that into new Pokemon Snap, I suppose the question is, will this be another on rails photography shooter?
It looked like it. They showed the photography mobile, whatever they call it this time. It was the 01 in the original, so maybe it'll be the 02. Anyway, they showed it plotting out a strict course in front of it.
Yeah, that would make sense, and quite frankly, that's kind of what Pokemon Snap is. Like, a lot of the challenge is, and you only have a limited amount of time to get a picture. It's like, I know there are people who want a more open world kind of Pokemon Snap, or something that takes away the time element. That, honestly, I think that would go against the core of the game.
That would have to be like a separate Pokemon Safari game.
Yeah.
Where you have to actually like move around and find Pokemon to take pictures of.
Yeah, because this is simulating like what a Pokemon Safari would be, and this acts like a Safari does, which is it moves along, it looks at animals, but not for too long. Especially since on real safaris you're looking at some fucking dangerous animals. You don't want to be near the lions for too long.
I mean, you don't want to be near the Moltres or the Gyarados for too long either.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at. So, yeah, if it's going to be another rail shooter, I'd say that's fine. I suppose another question is, we don't know the scale of this. Like, is this going to be a eShop game? Is this going to be like a $15 eShop game, or is it going to be something a bit more meaty, like a $30 venture, or even something that's getting released on a cart and full priced, or full price, or like $40?
And like, will they add DLC to add more Pokemon later on, or are they just gonna,
Hmm.
have a limited number and be done with it?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So there's still quite a bit to be discerned here, in terms of what new Pokemon Snap is. But we got the basics down packed because we know what a Pokemon Snap should be. Like, also, I guess also worth noting there were a couple of other Pokemon things announced.
Yes,
I
Pokemon
hesitate.
Smile, the game where Pokemon help get you to brush your teeth.
Yeah, I hesitate to call that a game. Like,
It's something for kids.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the yeah. It feels like a PSA campaign, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And
It
then they
does.
announced some coming content for Pokemon Go.
Well, also they announced Pokemon Soon or Pokemon Cake Mix.
Oh yeah, Pokemon Cafe Mix. Yeah, that actually looked kind of cute.
Yeah,
Yeah, it did.
I'm like, uh, it looked like a pretty typical Pokemon clone puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure if it would be better than say like Pokemon Troisy, but um, I'm sure it's gonna have its place. Um, and as far as the announcement next week, we do not know. Like, there was no indication of what that would be, other than I
Yeah,
guess
because
it's
they
not.
did also announce that they're going to be announcing something literally next week, which normally you plan so that that doesn't happen, but I guess they really wanted to get this one out before the release of the DLC for Sword and Shield, because they did also talk about that.
A Pokemon Digimon collaboration fucking riots would be starting in the streets.
It'd be weird.
It would be weird.
They just don't work the same way at
I
all.
know.
Yes. Um, it's kind of why like a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter crossover would actually be terrible,
Hmm.
because like, as fighting games, those are worlds apart. Oh god.
Hmm.
Oh god, you do not want fucking Street Fighter playing like Mortal Kombat.
Or Mortal Kombat playing like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Like Mortal. Yeah, like
To the purists, at least.
yeah. It's just I think Mortal Kombat plays quite stiffly. Like I've never been too impressed with how Mortal Kombat goes as a fighter, but yeah, it's like. Anyway, so that's about it for new Pokemon Snap for the time being. Clearly there is more to be heard about it. Like we also don't know a release date for this thing. Um, so maybe we'll get a release date next week. Maybe a bit down the line. We'll see. Anyway, so that about does it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. A nice start to the 13th season. As always, if you enjoyed what you heard tonight, be sure to karate chop the follow button,
Oh my god.
drop kick the bell. I don't know why we have to use very aggressive verbs to, click a button, but apparently this is what you do to get the follows. Like,
Throw some bits at us, so on and so forth.
yeah, it's like I don't. I just cannot get behind the whole smash the like button or whatever earnestly, because it's like hitting a thing that is not existent and tangible in this universe doesn't affect shit. Like,
And if it does, you might damage your technology.
yeah, it's like the, I guess this is an outpouring of enthusiasm, but it doesn't work. Anyway, so coming up on the week ahead, we were supposed to have a Friday interview this week, but that's gotten delayed. Currently in the throes of rescheduling because the developer is dealing with some sort of animation milestone. They're waiting to see how that turns out by Friday to let us know if they can reschedule for late July. We'll see what happens there. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, indeed, we have already started those. So if you've missed the first batch of these, they are in our archives. But anyway, coming up is Emma Lost in Memories, which is a bit of an auto-scrolling platformer mixed with a. It's an auto-scrolling puzzle platformer. It's a bit weird. Task Force Krampus for the PlayStation 4. Pettyfan's handling that. Hang the Kings. Ostensibly for the Nintendo Switch because that's the code we got. But the game was $1 on Steam, so I could very easily get everyone here a copy. It's a puzzle game involving chess pieces. You solve the puzzles by moving chess pieces like chess pieces. I think I played this as a mini game in an adventure game once.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm pretty sure this was in the Seventh Guest in some form.
Something Nights Tour.
Yeah. Also, and finally, Twilight Winter will be covering a game called Otter Bash. Right, so that's coming up. And until Sunday, I shall wish you good gaming.